Alright, so we've already answered the age-old question, can Switch 2 run Crysis better? And if you missed that deep dive into the original game's performance, I've linked it down below in the pinned comments. But today we're stepping things up, testing Crysis 2 Remastered, running on the exact same build as that original Switch, but now powered by Switch 2 hardware. No patches, no enhancements, just seeing if it can squeeze out any brute force gains. And yeah, we'll be digging into visuals, load times, and frame rate. Now, if you are new here, before we do get to this, drop a like or consider subscribing. I cover Switch daily, have been now for 7 years, and it genuinely helps a small channel like mine a huge amount. Let's get into it. So if you haven't played Crysis 2 before, a quick overview of the setup. This one picks up after the events of the original, dropping the tropical island setting in favour of a devastated New York City mid-invasion. Now you play as Alcatraz, a silent protagonist who inherits the iconic Nanosuit from Prophet, and with it, the burden of stopping an alien force that's tearing through humanity. Now gameplay-wise, Crysis 2 dials things in. Where the first game was wide, sandboxy, and all about freedom in open jungle spaces, this sequel trades that in for something tighter, more linear, more guided, but also more cinematic. You're still using stealth, armor, and power modes to approach combat how you like, but the environments are more structured. Think corridor shootouts with occasional wide arenas rather than, a full-blown open world. It's really less about how do I tackle this objective from any angle and more how do I make the most of the tools I have in this moment. So yeah, still satisfying, just a different flavour of tactical play. Anyways, again, this isn't a review today. I'll link my original Switch 1 review in the pinned comment below, but now let's talk performance. So visuals, and despite this being the exact same build as the original Switch version, no patch, no enhanced textures, Crysis 2 still ends up looking noticeably better on Switch 2. The first thing you'll pick up on is resolution. Now it's not native 4K, but the bump from the new hardware output, it means the image is just cleaner across the board. Distant geometry, HUD elements, signage, it all holds together in a way that it just couldn't on Switch 1. There's less jagged edges, and environments now have a slightly sharper, more readable look. Also on the note of resolution as well, on Switch 1 this game works with a dynamic resolution. The crazier it gets, the more that resolution drops. On Switch 2, from my time with the game, which was a few hours at this point, realistically I didn't see any resolution drops at all. It seems to be outputting at the very max it can. Lighting gets a surprising boost too. It's subtle, but shadows and highlights feel a little bit more defined, and just the effects in general of the bloom, it all looks cleaner. And this isn't because anything's changed, nothing has of course, but it's just because the Switch 2 isn't blurring these things into the scene like the older hardware sometimes did. Even the game's depth of field moments and lighting contrast scenes like early rooftop skirmishes or glowing interiors, it all carries a little bit more impact. Cutscenes too as well seem to get a lift. They've always been incredible. I love the presentation of this game, but now they're quite a bit sharper. Character models that used to suffer from, harsh outlines or obvious aliasing, it feels like they're smoothed out just a little bit here. It's not a massive overhaul or anything, but it makes a real difference in how polished this cinematic experience feels. Given how central to the story and set-piece moments are in Crysis 2, these improvements really appreciated. Now, to be fair, on the other hand, this clarity, it does expose some things. Texture quality is wildly inconsistent. Some look fine, others feel very much locked in the PS3 era. And enemy outlines, especially from a distance, still suffer from shimmering and flicker. You're seeing the game more clearly, but that means you're seeing its limits more clearly too. So it's not a transformation. This isn't suddenly the PC version, but the Switch 2 does give Crysis 2 room to breathe. It feels closer to what the art team probably wanted from the beginning, cleaner, sharper, more consistent. And if you've only ever played the handheld version, this is the best way to see it on Nintendo hardware, there's no doubt about it. Load times then are another area where Switch 2 flexes its muscle, and it's not just a marginal gain, it's genuinely noticeable. I'm going to show you a quick side-by-side so you can get a feel for it, but I'm not going to make you sit through the full load on the original hardware. But yeah, to give you a real-world example, I'm loading into a particular mission here, and Switch 2 had me standing in the level before the mission briefing had even finished playing. It took 35 seconds total. On Switch 1, that same load took 51 seconds, and yeah, this isn't a one-off. Across the board, loads are quicker. Now, when it comes to performance, Crysis 2 Remastered was already a bit of a standout on Switch 1. It mostly held a steady 30 frames per second with only occasional dips, usually during heavier combat or in more detailed open areas. And yeah, given the scope of the game, it was impressive then, it still is. On Nintendo Switch 2, of course, it won't push beyond 30, it would need to be unlocked, and unfortunately, that is not the case. But yeah, frame rate drops basically are even rarer now. Across general gameplay, I hit the 30 FPS mark consistently. Very occasionally, you might see a drop to 28 or 29, but honestly, I wouldn't have noticed it without the analysis tools running. So yeah, I'd love to see them open up the frame rate, obviously, but not a lot else to say in this case. It was impressive to begin with. Now it's even better, and well, yeah, what more can we ask for? So what is the verdict? And honestly, it's a win. Crysis 2 Remastered was already a solid performer on Switch 1, and running that same build on Switch 2 just tightens everything up. You get sharper visuals thanks to the bump in resolution, cleaner lighting, and noticeably improved cutscene clarity. Load times are quicker across the board, in some cases nearly 30-40 seconds faster, and the frame rate, while still capped at 30, is just more stable. I mean, simple as. Drops are rare now, and input for that will feel even better. So overall, it's not some sort of massive upgrade, it's not rebuilt for the new hardware, but that's kind of the point. This is pure brute force doing the work, and it shows just how much more consistent and polished games can feel on Switch 2, even without a patch. So yeah, if you were already impressed by what Crysis 2 pulled off on Switch 1, this is now the definitive way to play on Switch. There is no doubt about it. So yeah, if you enjoyed this video today, subscribe. Remember, check out Crysis 1, the video I did for that, in the pinned comment down below. And yeah, I'll see you all in the next video. Cheers all.